don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ready.gov. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
When you hear the Wayne Allen Root Show.
For once, Reuters done some actual journalism on Hunter Biden. Hunter never actually worked in Ukraine. He worked for Burisma, making $50,000 a month.
Then you are home. The Valley's news talk and podcasts. Talk Central Phoenix.
And now, back to more of the Chips and Salsa show.
So, which of the Latin countries are you from? The one with the Civil War, the one with the cocaine, or the one with the fancy hats?
And guess what? We're the one with the fancy hats, but we also have some fancy music. So that's our good friend Ruben Obed, who is in Puerto Rico, right?
Like Puerto Riqueño.
Yeah, he's Puerto Rican, like George.
Our Puerto Rican connection.
And he wrote that
nice
song.
Voice.
Yeah, does he have a great voice? He wrote that back in 2016, so we try to play it whenever we can because we are here, as our wonderful guest Scott Presler said, we are all about Trump, Latinos for Trump. That's why our show exists, because we're brown. It doesn't mean we're Democrats, because we're not. We are Republicans. George and
I'm a
Republicans.
deplorable, one of Hillary's deplorables. And I'm proud of it.
And I just want to thank our chipsters. So, Scott, what we do is Scott Presler here, talking trash with us, Mr. Cleanup. If you're a chipster, and we hope that you become one, that means that you tune into our show. You like chips and salsa, so we call them chipsters. But I want to thank you guys for all the support that you've given us. You know, we've been doing this. We're going like on our 6th year, I think, George.
And, in 5 years. It's crazy.
We both have regular jobs, but we just kind of do this on the side, and it gets our political stuff out, and we have wonderful guests to share with you. So thank you very much. And if you'd like to get a little more intimate group, we have a Friends of the Chips and Salsa show. You can go on there. Sometimes there's more postings there because Facebook, I don't know why they go after us because we're conservative. I don't think they necessarily like everything we post. So our little friends group works real good. So let's get back to our guest, George, shall we? The marvelous, wonderful, our new friend of the show,
Scott.
Chipster.
A new chipster.
Scott Presler.
Not to be confused with a hipster. I am not one of those hipsters.
No, you could be a chipster. Put the CH there, right. So we were talking about your adventures in trash. I think it's just so cool what you do. It really is. And you go all over the United States doing this. So how might you select certain areas? Are you invited, or how do you select where to go and what to do?
People invite me, so I've been to Atlanta, Boston, Baltimore, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, Duquesne, Nashville, Portland, Philly, Pittsburgh, and I was even protested.
They protested you?
For
Why would they
picking up
protest
trash
you?
in San Francisco. How rude. But it was Nancy Pelosi's backyard, so when she's too busy showing off her ice cream and her extravagant ice box, she has people from across the country coming into her district to clean it up. I know, yeah, I can't imagine why anyone would be so mad at me for picking up trash.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
That's
and
outrageous.
They kept saying to us, bigots go home. Ooh. And I went up to them and I said very respectfully, I said, will you join us? Will you help us pick up trash? And they wouldn't help us, so we did it anyway.
Wow. Oh, that's a great story.
True.
Speaking of politics, we wanted to talk about that bar hearing because you said you had a great story about that.
Yes. Well, I get a lot of people sliding into my DMs on Twitter. And so this woman, she messaged me incensed and she said, Scott, I am so outraged and angry and irate over the Bill Barr hearing. This woman is a teacher. She and her husband have never voted in their entire life.
They've never voted?
Never voted.
Teacher?
A teacher. And Joyzy.
Joyzy?
And so I said, well, I will tell you immediately how to register to vote at your current address, because that's what I do when I'm not, picking up trash. I'm registering voters.
Right on.
Yeah. And so +2 votes for Donald Trump in New Jersey. And I want to thank the Democrats, for honestly being a national embarrassment, because you were the best thing to happen to the Republican Party in years.
You are so right, Scott. You are so right.
And so really, everyone watching this show, the most important revolutionary thing that you can do is vote. So register to vote at your current address. And if you need help, slide into my DMs. I'm very active on Twitter. I'll even help you myself. Or if you live in the Tempe/South Phoenix area, come get registered to vote in person by Scott Presler tomorrow a las 4:30. 7:12. Oh, you didn't even know that I speak Spanish.
So
you didn't know
impressed.
that this gringo habla español también.
Ándale.
Si se puede.
Si se
And join us. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to register voters. We're going to clean up trash, and we're going to make Tempe great again.
Ah, super. And I bet you'll even take photos with.
Oh, absolutely. I will take a photo with every single person that comes. I'm going to even attempt to flat iron my hair tomorrow.
Wow.
I don't know if it's going to stick, but we'll see.
The weather.
Yeah.
So have you always had long hair? Kept it
It's been in phases. You know, when I was working at the elementary school, it just started growing, and they didn't really have a problem with it. But when I moved to Texas to help let Governor Greg Abbott, Tejas, I had cut it real short. So this is probably about 3 years of growth right
Is
here.
that right?
Mhm.
Wow.
But I don't reveal what products that I use because, if I were a Democrat, I would have already been on the cover of Times Magazine and I would have already had a hair care commercial. So I'm waiting for those calls because I need to make some coin too. Come on.
I like that. So tell us the story of, have you always been a conservative Republican?
I've always been conservative leaning. I did vote for John McCain and I did vote for Mitt Romney. But I know, we all make mistakes. But I did come to the realization that, just a Republican doesn't mean you're different than a Democrat. I am an America First Republican, not a globalist. I believe we should put our 3.6 million black children living in poverty first. I believe we should put our 4 million Hispanic children living in poverty first. I believe we should put our 4.2 million white children living in poverty first, and our 50,000 homeless veterans, and our 500,000 homeless Americans. When I go to these cities, I see our people sleeping on the streets, and nothing tugs at my heart more than seeing I failed my community. I have failed when we have homeless people sleeping on the streets, but we take care of illegal immigrants first. And I don't think there's anything wrong to say that my compassion, my heart, is first with the American people.
That is so well said, Scott. Now I mostly work from home, but driving into Central Phoenix and you see homeless people, and there are a lot of legitimately homeless people, and I say a prayer, I try to say a Hail Mary for them, but it's like, this is America. Why do we have this? We shouldn't have this. It still blows my mind.
Well, and I want to talk about removing the stigma associated with homeless people, because I've spoken to a gentleman named Bear in Van Nuys, Los Angeles, California, who's homeless by day but working on movie set production.
Really?
He's a homeless man that's working. And so many people would look at him and go, get a job. He has a job. And when I was in San Francisco, I talked to a young black gentleman who has a daughter. He's living on the street. In his time, he's working to literally clean up trash for a living while sleeping on the street. Wow. So I want to remove these negative, perceptions of the homeless community, because these are smart, educated people who may just have had bad luck and are left on the street, and we failed to protect them, and we failed to lift them up and work with them. So,
and is that because it's just really expensive too?
Absolutely.
In those areas? It's outrageously
unaffordable
expensive.
Housing is a big contributor. And, once you're on the street, it's so difficult. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is a cycle that continues. And, I also want to talk about our prison community for a second, because I'm actually working to go into prisons to register voters. And a lot of people, especially Republicans, may look at me, kind of with their eyebrow raised, but look at what President Trump has done with the First Step Act, giving people that may have made some bad choices, but giving them a second chance at life. And I want this new Republican Party, this movement based on love, this no judgment movement, this movement based on compassion and heart. I believe that if I preach it, then I need to act it. And so that's what I hope to bring not only to our homeless community, not only to our prison community, but I want this all across the nation.
Awesome.
You know, I read an article about a movie. You were talking about the guy working in the movie set, movie production. That a lot of these guys working for the studios with good paying jobs, but they can't afford housing.
Yes.
So they're renting mobile homes and trailers, and they live in parks, and they actually go to the movie studio, catch the bus, go to the movie studio, come back, and they live in a trailer. They're actually homeless, but you don't hear too much about it. But the article was very in-depth, and they were talking about a bunch of them working on production, working on those drawings and everything, everything having to do with making the movies. But what they make, they make $300 a week or $400 a week, but it's not enough to pay for the rent in the LA area, in the Hollywood area, in wherever they're doing the filming. Usually it's a Hollywood area, and those areas are very expensive.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to read that about, I always thought, you're working in the studio, you got to be, a nice apartment and stuff. Nope. And you were right. That guy was probably working in the studio. He just couldn't afford enough to rent. If you have to pay $2,000 a month for an apartment, maybe more, or a studio apartment, and you're only making maybe $1,500, it's barely enough for you to buy your food, to buy clothing,
transportation, internet, water. The list goes on and on.
Yes.
And then aren't there complications too? Because if you don't have a legitimate address to try to get some assistance or some help, and if you have kids.
Well, that's why they live in kind of like a park, in an area where they could put that as an address. Because when you register people, if they're homeless, there's a way to register them still.
You can, we can register and have registered members of the homeless community.
And we were trained in that,
Yeah. I mean, literally, it's as easy as saying, with all due respect, if somebody's living under an overpass, I would say, I'm tent number 3, the green tent, under the overpass at X and X Street, and the mailman will literally go and deliver their voter registration.
And that's legal,
form.
and that is legal, because we're trained that way. I'm a registrar recorder.
Great.
We're trained that way to accept people that are homeless.
Yes, and we should.
Don't live in a physical address, but have a homeless address. And when I was being trained, I was like, really?
Yeah.
And
even people, there are millions of Americans that live outside of the United States. Even if you don't own property in the United States, you have every right to vote in our presidential election. And that's one thing I've been focusing on. I've helped to register people to vote in Belize, Mexico, even Israel. There is an estimated 300,000 Americans living in Israel.
Really?
They can all vote. So this is about empowering people. That is what we're doing.
How many people do you think you've registered?
Oh my gosh, I've registered thousands of people to vote. And I love it. There's nothing better. I feel fulfilled. I feel like I'm living my purpose, and I feel like I'm truly helping people. And that's why, even though I'm severely sunburned and I woke up at 3:30 this morning, I feel like I'm making a difference, and that's what makes it all worth it.
No, it does. Make sure you wear your sunscreen out here.
Trust me. I'm drinking water.
Yeah, a lot of
and
water.
I'm putting on sunscreen. I will be ready to go.
a lot of water.
Absolutely. Okay, we still got a minute left. Now, what we're going to do is when we come back, we have our last segment with Scott. And in the break, we're going to say, what did we cover, what did we not cover, so we can make sure we take care of everything. And then we're going to let him go because he's got a lot of stuff going on. And we're just so happy that you squeezed out some time for us. Then the last segment, we're going to spend talking to George about elections and everything that happened here.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
Thank you.
And he didn't sneeze on us, okay? So don't get all corona.
That was not a COVID sneeze.
That's right. So I want you to hang around, and we'll be right back with our wonderful guest, Scott Presler, talking trash, Mr. Cleanup, and with
Don Jorge.
And I'm Alice Lara. So we're going to walk on some more. Don't go away. We'll be right back with the Chips and Salsa Show here on Central City Radio, Talk Central Phoenix.
The Valley's home for podcasts. Talk Central Phoenix. Get the app on iTunes or Google Play.
Hello, Kubo. What have you got planned for today?
Come on, this way.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
It's the most powerful magic there is.
Head outside to discover incredible animals.
Wow.
And beautiful plants that come together to create an